Welcome back to another edition of the Stupid Questions podcast, everybody. Today we're going to be talking with Katie Zafiris. A number of episodes back in the earlier days of the Stupid Questions podcast, we had Tommy, and Tommy is the husband of Katie, and Katie is a two-time Olympian. I think the best placement she got was third place in the individual and second in the relay. She is a hopeful for the 2024 Paris Games, so hopefully she gets that chance. But without further ado, I want to introduce you to the awesome and the kind Katie Zafiris. Huge giveaway alert. First of all, thank you so much to Synergy Wetsuits for sponsoring today's episode. It is awesome because they are giving away the Sin Skin 3, which is a state-of-the-art swim skin that'll make you faster when you are in the water coming into T1. So here's how you enter that. First of all, there will be a link to our Instagram in the show notes listing out these 5 different things you got to do to get in on the giveaway. But they are, first, you got to follow Stupid Questions and Synergy Wetsuits on Instagram. You got to like the giveaway post, tag 3 friends in the comments, sign up for our email newsletter at stupidquestions.show. There's a link at the top of the website and at the bottom where you can drop your email there. And then the 5th thing is leave a review of the podcast on your preferred platform of choice. And again, that link is going to be in the show notes. Go check it out on our Instagram page, Stupid Questions Podcast, Instagram, and it'll be pinned at the top of that Instagram as well. So thank you so much to Synergy for sponsoring today's episode and partnering with us on this giveaway. I look forward to seeing who is going to win. So I grew up in Asheville area. Was born in Brevard and lived around there, and then Morganton and other areas. But North Carolina is gorgeous. Probably the best state on the East Coast, I'd say.
I mean, I really like it. Tommy probably told you how we ended up here, but we Googled best place to raise a family.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so, I mean, we just love it. We've loved it since the first time we've been here. We're like, didn't know if we were just jumping the gun, buying a home here or not.
Yeah, that's awesome. How long ago did you move there?
We moved in January 2021.
Okay, yeah. So right after pandemic thing. I guess it was still kind of wild there for a while in North Carolina. Was it more chill there when you first moved in?
So when we first came to visit, it was July of 2020. And like, we were just trying to see if we liked the area and just like figure it out basically.
Yeah.
And there were no pools open. So I was like, not Googling, but I was emailing like everybody to see if anyone would give me a pool space.
Yeah.
And actually that's how I got connected with one of my closest friends here is
really?
her husband at the time owned like, or not owned, but managed like 80 pools in the area. So he was a good person to find. And then the reason his first response to me was like, yeah, my wife is pretty disappointed with the Olympics being postponed as well. And I was like, I feel like they're not just a fan. And so his wife was one of the first people to qualify for Tokyo for open water swimming.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So now I swim with her. I swim at the same time as her in the mornings, but she's much faster than me.
Yeah. Tommy, so I had asked him about a bunch of questions that we'll jump into, but he said that you swim every morning with, I guess, that person and then also a Paralympian. Tell me about that. What's that like?
It's amazing. I mean, that setup's amazing. So it's kind of ironic because on my easy swims, I swim with Ashley, who's the open water swimmer.
Yeah.
Because she does like 3K warm up. So by the time she's finished her warm up, I just have to add on like a little bit of pooling and cool down basically. And then I'm at my 4K, which is my normal.
Yeah.
And then on my hard swims, I swim with Morgan Stickney, who's a para gold medalist at the Olympics. And she's amazing. Like, it's a good thing I have legs because I for sure would not be any help to her. But I feel like we're really conducive for each other. We basically swim the same pace.
Wow, that's amazing. So she's pretty built up in the upper body strength and just amazing.
Yeah, built and like so smooth in the water. And like the longer it is, the faster she goes.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Good deal. Well, first of all, Katie, thank you so much for coming on. It's not every day I get to talk to somebody of your caliber. I guess I got the in with your husband. So thank you so much for making the time to come on. It's really a pleasure and honor.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So how are you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah. I'm just getting ready to go to London. I leave tomorrow. So packing up, trying to just do the last final things at home, but then also like had a hard swim this morning, had my little race. Well, I thought it was a bit harder of a race prep, but had race
Okay.
prep on the self-propelling treadmill
Okay.
that I've been trying to get used to because the race that I'm going to is Super Tri E.
Yeah.
So it's the former Arena Games, just a different name now, rebranded, and it's all indoors. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to get used to the indoor training life.
Yeah. How have you liked the self-propelled treadmill? So I got to run on one. Our gym got one, and I was like, oh, that looks so cool. But then I got on it. I was like, I do not like this at all. Like,
I was the opposite.
really?
I hate treadmills in general. Like,
Okay.
it's been one of the reasons that I've never done this format is just because one of the reasons we moved to North Carolina is so I'll never have to train indoors. And,
Yeah.
and so it just hasn't really been enticing to me. And then
Sure.
I got on it for the first time to try it out. And I was like, oh, well, this is my treadmill. Like, I actually
Oh,
like it
wow.
because I think regular treadmills, like it really just annoys me that you have to like pick a speed. And
Yeah.
like if you want to change your speed within it, like then you have to dial it down and you just don't know like, or at least I don't know like what that number is.
Sure.
And so sorry, I got distracted by
It's all good.
Tommy.
He waved, so it's all good.
um so like for me, the self-propelling one I actually quite like because it just goes as fast as like your cadence or however much effort you would put in.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Do they change the angle of like I don't know, because when you run it, it's like this half moon shape almost, and that's what kind of got me. It was like it feels kind of strange. I like felt I guess you get used to the balance because it's like you lean forward, lean back, or whatever. It definitely changes things. But do they have
Yeah.
different angles? Like, or is it the same exact one that you have that you're using through the race?
I think I'll have to find out. I've
Yeah.
only been on the one that's like at the gym or at the physical therapy clinic that I go to. And
Yeah.
so that's my only experience.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
like, I don't know if it's a really fast one, but I've been like, according to the paces when I've been doing my efforts on it, I was like, wow, like I'm running so well right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to be real sad if I get there and I just
It
haven't
calibrated
been
totally
training.
different. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So, why did you decide to jump into the Super E try format? Because you said you didn't weren't a huge fan before. What kind of pushed over the edge?
Um, my points race.
Okay.
I need to get points. And so like right now, I'm actually sixth American. I've been seventh since the beginning of the season. And
Okay.
after Hong Kong, moved into sixth American. And for me, that means, so five Americans are guaranteed to start on the start list for the World Triathlon Championship Series. So
Hmm.
for Yokohama, there's five Americans on, and that's our like next Olympic automatic qualifier and last Olympic automatic qualifier.
Hmm.
But I guess in good thing for me is that for sure only one spot can be taken there
Yeah.
for the Americans. So if I don't get on, it won't be doesn't necessarily mean that my chances are over.
Yeah.
They're becoming more and more limited though.
Sure.
And so with Super Tri E, that counts for the next race in Cagliari.
Okay.
So
Nice.
if I get enough points here in Arena Games, then I can automatically get on the start list and guarantee another opportunity to race and show what I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. That's super stressful to think about because so I'm more familiar, obviously, with like the long course stuff, and it's like you sign up, and most of the time you're on the start list. It may be changing a little bit with the pro series that are going on, but that seems like it would be quite the pressure to like wait last minute, see if you're gonna roll on. I guess are you used to it now?
Unfortunately, I'm getting more and more used to it
Yeah.
from last year to this year. It's definitely was something that I think coming back from having Kimball, having our son, he's
Yeah.
almost 2 years old now. Um, I anticipated like the physical challenges of coming back after pregnancy
Hmm.
and like getting back into racing, but I didn't really anticipate this like points thing or the fact that
Hmm.
like I would have trouble getting onto the start
Yeah.
lines and that I would drop in the Americans, which is an ode to the American women being very strong.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's been really stressful. I mean, even today, the Yokohama start list came out and my coach was texting me this morning to say like I'm number, I think 12 or 15, 12 to somewhere in that range of being on the wait list. And so, especially now with Kimball and Tommy's working at the World Triathlon Championship Series. So, Tommy 100% going to Yokohama. Me and Kimball, it's like I was messaging my cousin who came with us for a few races last year and to a few training camps. I was like, okay, so there's a few different things that will happen. Either me, you, and Kimball will all go to Japan, and then Kimball, me, and Tommy will fly on to the next race.
Yeah.
Or you and Kimball stay home, and I go to Japan, and then I come back. Or none of us go anywhere, and
Yeah.
like we all stay home. And I was like, "Are you open to any or all of these?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, like I can do whatever. Like
Yeah.
just let me know." And I'm like, "Oh, you're amazing."
Yeah.
Because if it's just me, like that's easy. That's like relative, like it's still stressful, but not nearly as stressful as like now where
Hmm.
it's not just figuring out like, am I going, but it's like figuring out
The whole family.
what the whole family's doing
Yeah. Yeah.
and who we need to help support us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to have those support networks and the flexibility for sure, but I'm sure it still adds a level of intensity to everything that you've got coming down the pike, especially with planning.
Yeah, for sure. I just can't wait for it to be like
That.
just known,
Yeah.
like for me to know whatever
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
happens.
So there are tons of things that I want to ask about triathlon. But first, I want to get into a little bit of, I guess, like who Katie is. And I feel kind of silly going to even ask this question because as I was doing research, not many of the people I've had on have their own Wikipedia page that's like packed full. So I could go through all of the accolades and all of the amazing things you've done, and probably tell you who I think Katie is. But I'd love to hear from your perspective, like who is Katie?
I think Katie is someone who just like is looking to be the best version of myself. Um, I have specific goals, but I feel very fulfilled
Hmm.
in everything that I've accomplished so far in like life and career that
Yeah.
especially in this moment, like I feel like everything is kind of a bonus. Like I was never the one who grew up expecting to be an Olympian or one even had the desire to be an Olympian. And
Mm.
it's not in the sense of like, oh, this doesn't matter to me. It was more in the sense of I was always like this, the thought, like, the realist, like how many people make the Olympics? How many people are
Yeah.
professional athletes? Like, and it was, I guess the best way to describe me is that I'm living a life beyond what I could have dreamed possible for myself or what I ever dreamed possible. And it's pretty cool to look back on everything we've done and just feel so happy. Like I mean, I'm bronze medalist in the individual for Tokyo in
Hmm.
triathlon and silver medalist in the relay. And I said after I finished for Tokyo, I was probably the happiest bronze medalist there ever has been,
Yeah.
and I still feel I still feel that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. That's totally not stereotypical, I guess, because I've heard of lots of stories where people get second or third and they're like totally not happy at all. So it's really interesting because the first we've only been talking now for about 10 minutes and you strike me as a very like at peace and calm person, which I wouldn't say is super common in this sport. Where does that like have you always been that way? Is that just how you viewed life or was that a little bit of nature or nurture?
um, Probably more nurture, and
Yeah.
I think also uh, I don't know. I think especially right now, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not always like the most calm or
Sure.
maybe don't feel like I have everything in control type person, but I think just overall, I just feel very grateful. I think that's probably the biggest thing is that I really know how privileged and how amazing a lot of the experiences that I've had have been, and also like family and friends and community wise. Like, I've been so blessed in that as well, and having
Hmm.
my parents who never really cared about my accomplishments necessarily. They just wanted me to like try my best, have fun. And I think that was really shaping for me. And even Tommy, it's the same. Like, he wants to see how well I can do, but like ultimately he wants me to be happy. So
Yeah.
it's really, I'm at peace in the sense that I'm only doing this for myself. I
Yeah.
don't really care what anybody else thinks, and no one else, my value, I don't feel that my value is determined by what I accomplish or what I have
Mm.
accomplished. And I feel like it's for sure like given me many more opportunities than I might have had it without them. But
Yeah.
at least when I think of like myself and my values, I know that just being me is enough.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm 31. I didn't really start to even grasp that concept of where my values should come from in a healthy way until probably like I was 29.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, you're a little bit older than me, but not by much. So, like, what you said, nurture, was that something that just your parents taught you? Is that because you said they didn't really push you in any certain kind of a way? Like, how did you, I guess, how would you give someone advice to find that level of peace and value in oneself?
One part I think is that, right, surround yourself by the communities of people who are going to support you through your
Hmm.
ups and downs, no matter what. And I think the other piece is there knowing there's no right way to do things, and that you don't have to do things in a certain way that you feel is the norm, or what necessarily what is expected. I think growing up, I always thought like there was a certain way you like go to school, like
Yeah.
go to college, get a job, get married, have kids. And doing triathlon kind of threw that for a loop for me, because
Yeah.
it was very much like a risk in my head when I decided to go into professional triathlon. I mean, partly because it was a completely new sport to me and I really
Yeah.
didn't have a clue what I was doing. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but also because I'd gone to school to be a physical education teacher. Like, I watched my parents work really hard. My mom in
Mm.
teaching, my dad was a systems analyst for Northrop Grumman. And so, like, I wasn't really exposed to professional athletes or
Yeah.
like the lifestyle that I'm living. And so getting those experiences kind of just, I don't know. I think I just never expected any of this for me. So the gratitude has only increased. And
Mm.
also, like with triathlon, I really learned how to get out of my comfort zone, so that, and learn like the mental side of things, because I wasn't always so good at like dealing with disappointment or
Hmm.
really discomfort. Like I feel like discomfort was the one
Mm.
that made me the most uh well, obviously uncomfortable,
Right.
but like just kind of like on edge, I guess would I describe it as. And I think I'm just getting better, a bit better with that. And now having Kimball, like my main goal in life has always been to have a family.
Yeah.
So that that also is like so fulfilling to me as being a mom.
Yeah.
And yeah, doing triathlon is something I still want to do to see how good I am, but I really only care about him.
Yeah. 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 At the end of the day, yeah, that's a beautiful thing to live for. The thing that you're able to create and then hopefully bring up. It'd be really interesting to fast forward 20 years to see where he ends up and how you've, I guess, guided him along life. It'll be a cool story.
I hope so.
So, where are you from originally?
I'm from Hampstead, Maryland, in Carroll County, 30
Okay.
minutes outside of Baltimore.
Okay. So, is that pretty small town?
Very small town.
Very
Yeah,
small.
I was
Okay.
actually just filling out a USA Triathlon survey, and it's like, what are the 5 things you recommend someone to do when they visit your hometown? And I got to 3, and
What else do you do?
I was like, and these are a stretch. They're not even in Hampstead,
Yeah.
but
That's so funny.
but it was the perfect place to grow up. Like I
Yeah.
loved it, the small town aspect of it. And my mom, she worked at a school that was like basically the elementary, middle, and high school were all in a row.
Okay.
So we'd always like she'd drop us off at school and pick us up. I don't know. It was the perfect childhood.
Yeah. So, us, other siblings, I'm assuming. How many of them are you and where are you in the lineup?
2 sisters, and I'm the middle child.
Okay. Interesting. Tell me about your siblings growing up. Was it a good time? You said you had the perfect childhood. Like, what does that look like so we can paint that for our own futures?
Okay, well maybe it was a perfect childhood for me.
Okay.
Um,
Maybe
my
not for them.
My mom and I was a challenge for my mom and dad at the time. I was a little bit strong-willed and hard-headed, and
Okay.
it's funny because like I felt like I don't think anyone would expect me to be the child that I was and the
Hmm.
person that I am now. Like I was just like a brat. And I think it was in my baby book that I enjoyed like closing doors on my sister, my older sister, and like I vacuumed up her hair when she was laying on the
Oh my
ground. So like
goodness.
so
On
maybe
purpose?
maybe I didn't I only painted a one-sided picture, but no. My older sister and I are only 2 years apart,
Okay.
and I would say we were never close growing up, and we've become a lot closer now as we've been older. But my sister was actually the runner, so when I started running, I was kind of like aware of not really wanting to tread on her territory,
Mm,
because like she was known as the runner and I was the swimmer, soccer player, lacrosse player.
yeah.
And so I remember one of the first track meets I did with her, and it was the 2 mile, and I was lapping her, and she like moved out to the outside so that I could stay in the lane. And I'll always remember
Wow.
that because I don't know, it just felt so kind
Yeah.
and like meant a lot to me. Even like she for sure didn't have to do that, but
Yeah.
it was really nice. And then my younger sister, she's 7 years younger than me. So like growing up, I don't know. I felt like she was raised as like an only child
Yeah.
because
Such a
my
gap.
older sister and I were kind of like not out of the house, obviously, but like it was a significant difference and
Yeah.
we were at significant different phases. And now it's crazy because she's still my baby sister, but like she had her first, my niece is 7 months older than Kimball, and she's a pediatric nurse. And I just look up to her in so many ways that
Hmm.
when we were all younger, I never thought we'd get to this place.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have how many nieces and nephews?
I have, well, so I have between Tommy and my side, I have three nieces and 3 nephews.
Wow. That's big.
No, 4 nephews. Sorry,
Okay. Four
miscounted.
nephews. Wow. Yeah. That's a good sized family. That's really good for all the cousins. Do you guys all, I mean, you're in North Carolina. Are they still back in Maryland?
Maryland for my older sister. My younger sister's in Richmond, which is like to the mile, exactly halfway between
Oh,
our
really?
house and my mom's house. And they were all here for Easter.
Oh, cool.
All of my family was here, so
Good.
it was as I like love it. It was
Yeah.
amazing. It was such a full house and
Yeah.
completely chaotic and a complete mess, but
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah, I grew up with a couple of cousins, but I married into my wife's family, and she has, I think, 10 cousins, and they're all within like 8 years of each other, all of them. And going home on the holidays, especially when we started dating, because it was the first time I got to experience it as being like one of the kids, was one of the coolest things. And yeah, hopefully we'll have that for the next generation, but it's a special thing. So that's really neat that you guys are starting that, I guess, level of number of kids in the family. That should be fun.
Yeah, yeah, it's really awesome to see it come this way.
Yeah. So tell me about your mom and your dad. You said your mom, I forgot what she did, but your dad was what, Northrop Grumman, Northrop, I don't even know how to say the company's name.
He, yeah, my mom was a kindergarten teacher.
Okay,
She's now
kindergarten teacher.
retired, and my dad, he has, yeah, worked at Northrop Grumman. So I don't know what they really ever. I mean, I know what they do, but
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe exactly what he did.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like, was it like, I guess not
Computer
contract.
stuff.
Yeah, computer stuff. Okay, yeah. So above my level of education to be able to ask educated questions. Maybe some stupid questions, but
That's good. Yeah, because it would just be embarrassing for my
yeah,
responses.
yeah, for sure. So with them raising you though, tell me a little bit about, I guess, their like kind of parenting style that you have taken on, and what kind of mix are you of them in terms of the just the character and the outlook on life?
I think I'm a pretty good mix of both of my parents. When they were raising me, I'd say my mom was like more involved. My dad more worked like the general like 9 to 5 job, but
Hmm.
he worked about an hour, and that would be like without traffic away. So he would always be there for the weekends, for vacations, for all of that. But during the week, it'd be my mom who was just kind of shuttling us from one event to the next. Both were the same and just like being supportive
Yeah.
and cheering me on. I mean, it was later in life, but I remember at like a race I was doing really poorly at in college, like last at least,
Okay.
if not like, well, I mean, I guess you can't go anywhere where it was
But
worse than
not
last,
finish. Yeah.
but not doing well and very far last.
Yeah.
And Like my mom and dad, they were just like still cheering, and I was I was so sad after, and my dad's like, Katie, it's just running. Like it doesn't matter. And that like is the same way that they were through my triathlon career. It's like if you're not having fun, if you're not enjoying it, like find something else to do. Like
Mm.
don't be sad. Don't like don't get so frustrated. And yeah, I just remember like doing activities with my family, and they, like I was saying, when I was younger, I would say from like 0 to 12, I was really challenging. I would just like lie over stupid stuff and
Mhm.
like
That was me.
just not listen. And my dad kind of would try the intimidation factor with my sisters, but it didn't really work with me. So,
Caused
I
you to
mean,
puff
this is
up.
a really stupid story that I probably should like, I'm gonna regret sharing, but my dad would threaten to like put soap in my mouth.
My
And
mom did that.
so um, I just like took a bar of soap and like walked up to him and put it in my mouth and just like looked at him.
Oh my
And then
goodness.
he's like yelling at me because he's like thinking it could be poisonous or there could be like some
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like an issue. So I definitely tested them, and
Wow.
thankfully like thankfully they stuck with me. And now it's funny because like I'm like so completely opposite. Like I'm like risk adverse. I don't like getting in trouble. Like
Yeah.
I it like really affects me if someone like doesn't like me.
Oh,
So um but
where
yeah,
sorry, I was just gonna say like that there's a huge switch you're talking about. Like did puberty just chill you out, hang you out in the sun for a while, and like what happened?
I honestly have no idea. Like
Really?
I think like going to college probably did like a little bit of that. And maybe just becoming like more like focused once I was in high school on like I don't want to say sports because like my high school sports weren't like super intense, but there also wasn't just like much to do outside of it. And
Sure.
maybe just I don't really know when the switch happened or how, but all I know is that me is like very far out of my realm now.
Yeah.
And I do wish I had a bit of her left in me.
Yeah. Are you seeing any of that fire and pizzazz in Kimball? I know he's only two, but
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely very strong-willed,
yeah,
and yeah, I mean, I guess every toddler might be.
sure.
I think one of the things that's interesting with him, which isn't a direct answer to your question, but um, Tommy like really gets frustrated if he can't figure something out,
Hmm.
like that he thinks he should be able to figure out. And Kimball's the exact same as him. Like if
Wow.
he can't like do like say he's trying to hit a ball and he tries like a couple times to try and hit it or try to put on his shoe, it's not just like, oh, I'm just gonna get bored and give up. He's just like mad. He can't do it. And
Really?
it's like the exact same response as Tommy has.
Yeah.
So and like for me, I'd just be like, I can't
Yeah.
do it.
Oh, it's amazing when you kids or how things are passed down. Like oftentimes, I think of like genetics, like all the physical attributes, but a lot of like the mental cues and just ticks, the things that we have really do transfer over to our kids and people we spend close times with. It's really interesting.
Yeah,
That's a neat
yeah.
story. So what was high school like for you? Was that when you first started to realize like, oh, I can run pretty fast, like, or I have some ability here or some natural talent? What was that like for you?
Kind of. So high school, like I would have always considered myself soccer, lacrosse, and swimming, with swimming being my main sport.
Yeah.
And so I decided my sophomore year of high school that I didn't want to play lacrosse anymore. And I was like, okay, well, I'll run track to stay in shape for soccer in the fall.
Okay.
And during that season of track, I just like did really well in the state championships. I won a couple state championships. I mean, Maryland is a small state, but
Sure.
it was still, I guess, noteworthy
Yeah.
for at least like where I live. And so I did go out for soccer in the fall, but I still think there was a, so my track coach was also the varsity soccer coach. And while I was going out for his team, he was telling the varsity cross country coach to recruit me.
Oh, really?
Um, and I made the team, but I like talked to the coaches and I wasn't going to get a lot of playing time. So then I ran cross country, and ultimately one by one running started taking over.
Mm-hmm.
But originally I would say I mainly did it just because I was good at it. Like it wasn't necessarily a love for it, and I didn't really, I was just talented
Sure.
more so than I
passion for
mean,
it.
I put in enough work, I guess, as a high schooler, but we came from like it wasn't an intense program. It was
Yeah.
very a basic program. So then when I was looking at schools, I was looking for like for college. I mean, I was looking for both swimming and running, but this was still before triathlon
Yeah.
even became a thought.
Yeah. And you were recruited by, I want to say Syracuse. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to Syracuse, graduated, went to Syracuse, asked the coaches, Coach Fox and Coach Bell at the time, if I could swim while I was running. And they said, sure, you can swim in your free time. And I probably went to the pool like 4 times
Okay.
in college.
The track and field was definitely the focus. Did you ever start to find like a love for it, or was it just always kind of something you did?
Cross country more so. I really enjoyed cross country with the team, and just in general, I like not being bored. And I feel like on the track, I had trouble focusing until I found steeplechase. And so my last 2 years at Syracuse, I did steeple, and that one was much more fun for me. I mean, obviously, you can't like just stop thinking or you're going to hit a barrier. So
Yeah.
it really kept me engaged, and it was more cross country esque
Yeah.
to me. But I would say before falling in love with like running, I just enjoyed the team aspect and seeing again, like just seeing how I progressed through the years with it. And
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder what if, because I feel like I definitely didn't function as a professional athlete
Yeah.
when I was in college. I didn't have like the capacity to know where I could potentially get at that point. I think I just was like, oh, I made nationals. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, but like, yeah, I think my goals weren't so lofty at the time.
Yeah. So thinking back on it now, do you wonder like if you would have just went down that path with a little more focus, you feel like you could have gone to the Olympics and those types of things?
Well, that might be a stretch, but
Yeah.
like, I think I probably could have ran a bit faster. And I think a lot of it just comes from self-belief. I mean, that's in triathlon too.
Yeah.
Like,
It matters.
just believing you can do something really opens the door. And I think I believed I could do something, but I just never was thinking like really, really far ahead, you know? And maybe that's why cross country was easier for me, because it had nothing to do with times. It was just literally trying to be as close to the front as you could possibly be.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it was, yeah, just not really thinking so far ahead. Like I had
Yeah.
little baby steps.
Yeah. So when do you feel like you made that jump to where you started focusing more like long term? Your eyes were kind of your perception and kind of opened up a little bit.
I think this is going to sound now like backwards to what I just said, because once I started triathlon, it was literally starting at ground
Yeah.
zero with knowing what I was doing. And so that one I kind of just fell into, not fell into because I was working hard, but like I think because I was learning a new sport and putting in all the effort and doing the training plans that were provided to me, it was really conducive to my trajectory, just kind of going up and up and up, and it working for me as I like wasn't so stressed out about where I was going to get to, because honestly, I didn't really know enough about triathlon to think about that in the beginning. And
Yeah.
my like ability to kind of go from just learning the sport to being on a podium was like happened pretty quickly. And so I think by the time like I would have been thinking ahead, I was already there, and it was like the only thing left was
Yeah.
like trying to qualify for the Olympics and like be world champion and try to get a medal. And I think by having such a consistent I had a pretty consistent career up until having Kimball, up until 2021. And I
Yeah.
think that helped, because when it was the earlier years, I was getting on the podiums and I was just seeing Sarah True and Gwen Jorgensen. They were more consistently on the podiums than I was. And so seeing them do it made it like, oh, well, I want to be on the podium with them. I want to do this consistently as well.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of fell into like knowing
That's what you got to do.
exactly where I wanted to get.
Yeah. Why did you move into triathlon from like cross country, track and field, that kind of stuff?
I never, well, again, now back to the other part.
Yeah,
I never
sorry.
believed I could be a professional runner.
Okay.
So when I graduated, my next step was to be a physical education teacher, to go
Yeah.
to grad school and do health education or community health. And it was at that time that USA Triathlon was recruiting me. Actually, what Tommy's job is now is basically how I got into the sport. They kind of found me during my fourth year at Syracuse, but I had one fifth year left of eligibility. So
Okay.
at that point, they provided me a coach. I started dabbling in triathlon, just like age group races, like local races. But
Yeah.
it was really fun. And probably one of the reasons I enjoyed it the most was I really loved like the local racing, that whole
Yeah.
just environment. And you'd come back with like pint glasses and
Yeah.
like fun little, fun little goodies. So that's kind of what I did to get into triathlon. And then I really got lucky. Like at the time that I was graduating from Syracuse and just starting to figure out what I wanted to do next, USA Triathlon was their program was evolving. So they asked me, hey, do you want to move out to the Olympic training, the USOPC in Colorado Springs, and like really commit to going for a triathlon in the Olympics? And like I was saying before, I think it was a really nerve wracking. I was in a like long-term relationship at the time. I
Yeah.
knew being a teacher and doing community health and like that was a more safe profession, more
Mm-hmm.
predictable at least.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I was actually surprised. Like I'm not like a very, very religious person, but I was in church and the priest was saying the homily, and I was sitting with the family that I nannied for at the time at Syracuse, and I was like, I think he's talking to me. And I don't even remember exactly what it was, but it was basically like saying to like take a chance and do something.
Mm.
And I took that as my sign.
Yeah.
And so committed to going to Colorado Springs. My dad drove me out from Maryland to Colorado. We took like 4 days to do it.
Wow.
And about yeah, I think I've told this story a lot, but not very far out from getting to Colorado Springs, I told him I didn't want to do it anymore and can we go home?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Just the
And
overwhelming emotion of all that change, I guess, and the nervousness of, I mean,
yeah, like it's intimidating,
yeah,
right?
Olympic
To go
Center.
with
Yeah, it
Olympians
sounds,
and
yeah.
that be the goal. And my dad just, I think this is another ode to my parents, because my dad was like, Katie, just give it a chance. Like if you don't like it, if it's not for you, then like call me and we'll go. Like
Do
I'll come
something
back
else. Yeah.
and I'll fly out and then we drive back home together. Like it was a, yeah, it just felt like it was a no lose
Yeah.
decision at that point.
Yeah. Being able to have like, to know you have the support of arguably the most influential people in your life who care the most and know you the best to say like, yeah, if it doesn't work out, but still go give it a shot. And I'm sure, I feel like your parents probably were like, oh yeah, this is her jam, but we'll tell her she can come back home if she wants to. But getting you there, you probably a little shy, like you said, super intimidating. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah. Well, my dad, so funnily when you say that about like them knowing, the whole reason I later found out. So the first triathlon I ever did was right after I graduated from high school.
Okay.
And it was just a local triathlon, try to win triathlon in Mount Airy, Maryland. And my dad, it was on Father's Day. So my dad's like, I really want to do this triathlon. Like who's going to do it with me? And I ended up doing it with him. When I said yes, like he had to learn how to swim. I had to learn how to bike.
Yeah.
And later I find out that he just kind of thought like, well, him and my swim coach apparently were scheming with triathlons and just thinking I'd be pretty good at it. And I
Yeah.
think there's this, I think there's actually a local newspaper article of my swim coach like predicting I'd be a pretty good triathlete. And I was completely oblivious to all of this
Really.
at the time. Like I had no idea.
Yeah. Are you still friends with that coach?
Oh yeah, my mom is like best friends with his wife, and
Oh,
he,
wow.
when I went home this past winter, he let me swim at their pool.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
like
Yeah.
that the pool he coaches at now.
Yeah. That's amazing. So my friends and I pride ourselves whenever we've had a hand to play in like matchmaking people, but I can only imagine how he feels to be able to say like, oh, I think she'd be pretty good at triathlon to two Olympics, maybe potentially even three Olympic careers. Like that's pretty cool thing to have. Do you have that newspaper clip article? You don't, do you?
I think I probably do. It's
Okay.
actually I went up for something random today in the like attic, and
Oh, it's up.
I was like looking at all the boxes, and I was like, it's probably in there.
Oh, that's awesome. So then moving more, I guess, a little closer to modern day, like you're moving through the ranks, you're starting to gain that momentum, you're wanting to be on the podium more. When does Tommy come into this picture?
He comes into the picture in, well, I suppose we did meet before this, but I
Sure.
don't remember it.
Yeah.
But he
Did he
does.
notice you before? Yeah.
Well, we met in an elevator that I don't remember this interaction,
Okay.
but he does. But we met at a World Cup in Tijuvaras, Hungary, and it was a pretty impactful meeting. He was very he was very nosy and asked me a ton of questions and like life questions, like not like little like small talk questions, like big
Yeah.
talk questions. And we ended up just like really like hitting it off. And so it wasn't very long after that. And this is a little bit of a condensed version.
Yeah. You can give the longer version if you want, because so I had him
That's
tell a little
okay.
bit of it,
I've
but
shared it before. I'm not sure it's for this.
okay, sounds good. So I talked to Tommy at length about a lot of stuff. Some of it being with just how he deals with Kimball, a little bit of his OCD that he kind of says like, yes, 100%. I struggle with that. I'm very similar to him in that like I always want things tidy and clean. So, and he says that you are perfectly cool with like Kimball's messes that he makes throughout the days, and like you're like let him be a kid. So I'm wondering if you can give me some advice on like how to prepare me for being a father someday, hopefully in the next few years, to deal with all of that stuff because the OCD in me definitely wants to go crazy.
I mean, I think it's just like wanting to be present and being like with Kimball. And I actually recently saw this on like a social media thing, of course, but it was like if you get down on the level of the floor that's like completely messy, you're like looking at their childhood. Like
Mm,
every like piece that's on the ground is like something they did that day or something that, like that has a memory for you instilled with it. And I think for me, like in general, it seems like the things that I care the least about, Tommy cares a lot about, and vice versa. So
yeah.
like messes don't bother me very much. And but that being said, like we clean it up each night. It literally takes, we contain it almost always to like one room in our house. So maybe that's my advice is have one room
There you go.
that's like
Can be the
you just let
bombshell.
him be, maybe the room downstairs and he has his room, and like he does whatever, we pull out whatever. And I just, for Kimball, like I think I just love watching how his brain works and how he goes from one thing to the next. That
Mm,
it's not like, oh, you're done with this, we're gonna put it away.
yeah.
Like at the end of the day, we clean it up all together. Like if it works out that way, or
Yeah.
I'm cleaning it up after the end of the night. But
Sure.
like I don't know. I think it's just I like watching the like transitions from things. So the mess, yeah, it really.
Didn't
I
bother you.
mean, when okay, so I was saying we had my family for Easter, and when
Yeah.
there were so many of them, like I was really excited after everybody left, even though I loved having them here, to clean up and like see the floor again. Because
Mm-hmm.
like cleaning up after one child is like relatively simple.
Yeah.
Like cleaning up after like five kids is like a
Yeah.
lot more challenging because there's no like, oh, like at this time we're cleaning up is just a constant mess,
Yeah.
which is a little bit
A little
more
much.
overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. Too bad you didn't have triplets, huh?
I don't think I have any advice for you. Then maybe just
Yeah. It's a tolerance. It's interesting. When I went off to
yeah,
college,
tolerate it.
when I went off to college for the first time, so I have two younger sisters. One's 12 years younger and one's 4 years younger. So there's a gap there. But I went off to college and I came back on breaks and just realized like, wow, my sisters are really loud and I don't know how to deal with this. So I think you build that tolerance or you're used to those kinds of things after a while. That's just kind of how it works.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I'm not bothered by it
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
because I think it is hard if you are.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I have 8 questions from Tommy, and some of them are related to, I guess, Kimball, parenting, motherhood. So I'm going to jump into some of those.
Okay.
Um,
They're Tommy asking me or
Yeah, so I asked Tommy, I was like, what are some good questions I can ask her? And he's like, oh,
oh,
these.
oh,
So
what?
these are most relevant to the current piece of the conversation. So tell me about your difference in parenting styles between you and Tommy.
I think, well, I'm more nervous. So
Okay.
I'm
You worry some?
I'm definitely like the worrier about anything safety wise with Kimball. And that's like a new, well, I've always been a worrier, but definitely having a kid has just made that exponentially more heightened.
Yeah, more intense.
And so Tommy doesn't worry about any of that.
Okay.
um, and he's much more relaxed. I would say we're both like pretty chill with Kimball. I think in the long run, Tommy will be more the disciplinarian than me.
Sure.
Um, and I think he'll be better at it than I will be.
Yeah.
um,
How so?
he's just like very like direct and very clear and concise. Where I feel like when I get emotional, I get
Mm,
a little more like frazzled. And even if it's just in like Tommy and my relationship, when we have a disagreement, like I would consider it a fight, and Tommy's just like, no, this is gonna make us better.
yeah.
And like he's a lot more clear. Where I have to like take a moment to like bring myself down and like I'm not able to articulate things in the moment super clearly,
Yeah.
even if I want to, and Tommy is.
Hmm.
I don't mind like messes, so that's like a big difference in our parenting, as we discussed.
Sure.
um, I probably like to do things more with Kimball. Tommy likes to run errands, like where I hate running errands with Kimball. Like I'll leave Kimball with Tommy, whereas
Okay.
Tommy's like, "Oh, we can run errands together."
Yeah. Little buddy.
But we're both like, I think we're pretty similar in the like bigger things, like
Yeah.
the, like
You have to be.
the, yeah, it's basically just, especially at this age, it's
Yeah.
like he's not old enough to really understand much. So it's just like loving
Yeah.
him, trying to like help him work through like different emotions and
Yeah.
trying to, like now he's at the age where you can like talk to him and tell him what's happening. So like he understands
Yeah.
things more.
A little more comprehension. I'll have to touch base again in 15 years when there's girls involved and
Yeah,
see
when
what.
he's more challenging.
Yeah. So tell me about how your body positivity mindset changed after becoming a mother. You mentioned that you had a shift there.
Yeah, you're asking me at a hard time because I'm nervous about the weigh-in for Zwift for Super League,
Oh, really?
uh, but no, in general, like I'm super confident in my body, and it's been kind of crazy, like coming back from Kimball because I think there were times during my most like the fittest I ever was in like my career, and just I just wasn't as comfortable. Like I wouldn't be seen wearing like a crop top or a bra to like work out. And then after having Kimball, I think even with realizing like there may be some like parts of me that weren't like I knew I wasn't as fit as I was beforehand, but I
Yeah.
felt so confident in my body and just like its
Mm,
capabilities. And I also think I just cared less what other people
body. Yeah.
thought. And yeah, and just being like proud of everything that I went through to like during those 9 months, and then
Yeah.
after having Kimball, I think there's just I like why was I ever like caring, and also realizing like who like who again who cares, like Kimball's really not going to care,
Yeah.
like Tommy doesn't care, and so yeah.
Yeah. So then tell me how you feel now because you recently became part of this Athleta, I guess, commercial or line of clothing, and now your pictures are everywhere. I've actually seen, I think, one of your pictures in the Athleta store here in Chattanooga. So
Yeah, that's crazy.
now that you're a part of that, I guess just tell me about that experience because that seems like a newer level of popularity, I guess, and fame in some regard because you're all over the place.
Yeah, I'm really like I was really proud of that. Like
Yeah.
that to me is like really cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Like I
awesome.
can see myself in Athleta commercials and yeah, I think I just again like I feel proud of like being a part of that and having my pictures around and um also like the whole experience was such a good experience when we did the photo shoot because it was
Hmm.
literally just like I'm not a model, and if someone tells me to model, I automatically like look weird and like make the wrong facial expressions and all of
Yeah.
that. Like I think too much.
Yeah.
And so with Athleta, when we were doing the photo shoot, they were just having me do my normal like running, swimming,
Yeah.
doing like core, and they had a guy there who was running us through strength exercises. So we were like, I was the sorest that I've ever been after that photo shoot
Yeah, it
because
looked like you guys were seriously
um,
doing some workouts.
yeah, because they had told me like, oh, hey, can you do some pull-ups? And I was like, yeah, I can probably do 3 to 5, but not expecting to do like 3 to 5 100 times.
Yeah.
And it wasn't 100 times, but it was a lot of
Yeah, it felt like
times.
a
And
lot.
actually, a fun fact about one of the pictures that they've used a lot of is like a pull-up, and I'm with two other girls, and I'm down a little bit further, and they're up at the top, and it's because I'm like struggling.
To like free hang
If you
there.
see my face, it's just shaking and
Yeah.
grimacing on the other side.
Yeah.
But I just think, yeah, it just made me, yeah, again, just feeling like good about who I am.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see such a big company take interest in like me and my story and my sport. And that was, yeah, that was just a really, and has been a really exciting thing to be a part of.
Yeah. How did they find you through a mutual connection, or did they just look up some triathlete Olympians, or how did they find you?
It was my agent who was
Okay.
with one of the like top people at Athleta on a plane, and they got to talking. And
Oh, that's awesome.
then when they were considering people to be part of the Power of She collective, I was one of the names considered, and yeah,
Yeah,
accepted. And
that's
I
awesome.
mean, the Power of She collective is made up of like a bunch of other women who all have different stories. And I think one of the coolest parts of it is we're all at different places. Like
Hmm.
there's only a few of us who are still competing on the professional level. A lot of the other women are retired and on to really cool other things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just really like that it's not about necessarily like performance
Hmm.
or being the top athletes. It's like just something much bigger than that.
Yeah, yeah, that's really neat. Who was your, I guess, favorite's probably the wrong word to use, but one of the notable people that are on the collective that you got to meet maybe through this?
Probably Natalie Coughlin because she's on the collective as well, and I just grew up watching her swim. So and now she has a little family too, and she's making wine and like
Oh,
owns
wow,
a
that's
bit
so cool.
like so. I think it's just yeah,
Yeah, that's super
really
neat.
neat.
Um, One more question on the Athleta stuff. Do you get Athleta stuff for life now? Like, did they give you some sweet contract?
I wish it's not for life, but it's been. I will take what I can get, and
Yeah,
I'm very grateful for the years that I am getting with them,
yeah,
and
that's
yeah.
awesome. Good for you. So tell me about planks and pajamas. I see this on my Instagram most evenings, I guess. And yeah, just tell me how that started, what it is, and what you aim to accomplish with it.
Planks and Pajamas is something that started after reading, oh no, I can't remember the book, Atomic Habits.
Yep.
And so it's about like my takeaway as for the Planks and Pajamas piece is that doing something for 10 minutes is worthwhile or
Mm.
like a small amount of time and being consistent about it and trying to figure out how to make it a habit. And so for me, that was not just for myself, but for at the time, my mom and my sisters. I started it, I think the first one was like in 2020, right when COVID was like March of 2020. So
Yeah.
like the
Ugh.
the very beginning of COVID. And I would just call them at a certain time and we would all do like 10 minutes of core together and I would run through it on FaceTime. And so then like that started growing a little bit more with like other friends and figuring like okay well I can do it on if I do it on Instagram or do it on Facebook like more people can then participate and try to hold myself and others accountable. And again, like if you do the 10 minutes a day, which
Yeah.
was the goal, then that's 70 minutes in a week, which is like quite substantial of
Yeah.
strength. Because I mean, I do like for my normal sessions between 30 to 45 minutes twice a week. And that's like, so then on top of that, doing the
Yeah.
planks and pajamas. And mainly, I think there is just so much like intimidating fitness that I wanted to bring something more, I call it home style, where
Yeah.
like my setup is terrible. Like I look a mess. I like Tommy told me the other day I had something in my teeth the whole time and like didn't tell me. And I'm on
Nice.
like it's a face view. I should have like been aware.
Yeah.
But
That's
and
funny.
then so it's been a little bit off and on since 2020. Like we haven't remained super consistent, but since I guess like November of last year, we've kind of been at it again. And yeah, it's the same idea. There's not like that big of a following, but
Sure.
I have a loyalty now to the people who do. And as racing comes up, it's a little less consistent as when I'm not racing, just because when I go into a race, I mean, it is an added thing for me each night. And
Yeah.
like 8 p.m. just to like drop everything and do planks and pajamas. It works most nights, but it's nice to like not have leading into a race. And I don't know. I guess my main thing I want to get out of it is I want to help other people build something into their routine
Yeah.
that they may not do if we weren't doing planks and pajamas. And I like just the small community that I know like really enjoys it, and like even like my mom, or there's a lot of
Oh,
people
that's
who tell me
awesome.
they just watch planks and pajamas.
Like as a form
I'm
of
like, you just
entertainment.
watch it? Like, you don't do it.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that part, it's like I can't really connect with anyone because I can't see the screen. Like my phone is like the smallest iPhone you can get, so
Yeah.
like I can't see the screen on it. But I've gotten good feedback
Yeah.
from like enough people to make it seem worthwhile to me.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I've been following. It's funny because Mark and I do like this live session every other week or whatnot, and we have a little competition with you because you start usually at 8 in East Coast, and we start at 8 at East Coast. So it's been kind of fun to see that.
Oh man, who's watching who?
Exactly. Good deal. So tell me about journaling. Tommy tells me that you have, or he said to ask how many journals you have.
Well, currently I have 4 or 5 if you count my planner,
Okay.
all handwritten. Um, and so one's a gratitude journal, and
Okay.
then in the back, so from the front to the back, it's a gratitude journal. And from the back to the front, which is going to collide at some time soon, is like race planning, and where I like write out my race time schedules and like my race goals, and sometimes write out like the visualization of my race.
Okay.
I have a journal for Kimball where I just write notes to him, and
You
that
write
one's
notes
not, that
to
one's
him?
like, hmm?
You write notes to him, like as in the future?
Yeah, like whatever we're doing. It's just his little like when I don't know. I'm like really emotional with Kimball, and so like when my heart is like so full, it feels like it's going to burst. Like I'll usually
Mm,
write him like, which is a lot of the time, but I like writing it down to him to tell him like just like what's going on, what is he doing, what does he not like,
wow.
what's been challenging, like
Yeah, that's awesome.
and it's mainly based around him, like very little has to do with like what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, so I have a planner that is all handwritten, and that also has reflections for the month and things like that. And then I have 2 like write 1 line a day journals. One's supposed to be for a mom, like mom wise, and one's supposed to be for you as an individual.
Yeah.
And I've found that I just do the mom one because both of them would be the same for me. Like I'm
Sure.
not going to write about my training because I have training. I guess you could count another one would be Training Peaks, where I write out my training and all the
Right.
feedback on that. But so yeah, those are my journals, which
So,
is very hard to travel with.
oh, really? Because they're just like thick,
They add
extra
up.
weight.
One is fine, but when I travel with like multiples of them, I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. How did you get into gratitude journaling? Was that something that someone got you into, or is it just you decided to do that?
Um, It was a few years ago, and I think I'd started journaling just in general for like mindset, and I realized that I don't really like writing about the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Like I just find it to be like it didn't take it out of me. It more just felt like energy to write it down. And so I think I just started doing the gratitude journal, and sometimes with like I haven't been doing it recently, but I used to do like things I was grateful for, and then I'd write three intentions for the next day that were like pretty specific. And sometimes it would look like a to-do list, and other times it would have more to do with like mindset and be a little bit more broad, I guess.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, I've had it going on for like quite a few years now.
Yeah.
So, and I really, I mean, if I were to say something that's the most impactful for
Mm.
like if someone were to journal, I think it's the gratitude one, because I think you realize how good things are.
Yeah,
I
for
mean, like
sure.
I'll put like got like well, one was going to be found my watch in my pillowcase this morning. That was like that's one of mine. Like
Quite a place for a watch.
catching a light when it's green. I don't
Yeah.
know, like little things, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Life's pretty good. Yeah, no, those are awesome things. So just a final couple of questions or a few questions for you. Um, and the first one has to do with the Olympics. So you've been there twice. You have the opportunity to go the third time. What would it mean to you to go a third time? Because I know we talked a little bit earlier, like life, a theme of your life to some degree has been like things have happened and you snowballed into these kind of greater and greater events and you've kind of stood back like, wow, like that happened. Wow, I'm super grateful for this. So would this one mean more to you than the others? Would it be just another Olympics? Like what would it mean to you?
It's a different experience, I think. And it's funny because I feel so driven to make it to this Olympics. I think in a bit because it's such a different preparation than other ones, and it's been one of the hardest, like most unpredictable and
Yeah,
most challenging last couple years to build into it. Whereas like for Rio and Tokyo, I was building with success
yeah,
and consistency, and knew what I was doing as a elite athlete. And I don't know, not to say it was simple, but it
sure. It was
compared
different.
to now, like
Yeah,
it was simple.
yeah,
And now I think it's like wanting to do it as a mom, wanting to bring like be a mom at the Olympics, and um see what I can do with this, what I would call bonus round. And
yeah,
I'm very driven because I feel like I can. And then at the same time, if I don't, I also feel very at peace with like knowing A, that I went for it,
yeah,
and B, that I really have had like a career that I'm really proud of,
yeah,
regardless of this next one. So it's kind of looking at it in two ways. Yeah.
yeah. Good answer. So after the Olympics, is there any chance that we'd ever see you do long course racing?
Well, I also said I was never going to go for this Olympics, and I am here. I am, but
Yeah.
but, but I think there's parts of the longer course that really like excite me. I'm honestly a big reason I won't go for long course is because I don't want to be on the bike anymore, and it's not because I don't like cycling. It's because I get scared on the roads, and it makes training not really enjoyable for me. It's just kind of
Yeah.
like each ride being nervous. So
Just
it's
because
kind
of
of a bummer
cars.
that that's the reality.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that just wanting to like have like be home and ready for a different thing. So it's my time has come.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. You said no Olympics before, so we'll see what
I'm gonna
happens
say
there.
no to Ironman. I'm gonna
Okay.
say like maybe to
Like the
um,
half distance or the
half
T100 type of thing.
distance
Yeah.
or PTO.
Yeah. So what do you see yourself doing after triathlon?
I'm gonna be Tommy's sidekick.
Yeah.
No,
Travel around?
um, I'm going to find my place. I think it will have something to do with triathlon. I feel really passionate about the community, and I think I have lot to share with my experiences and what I've learned, and
Yeah.
especially the mind, like the mental side of things. I just think I can impact others through that. So a little bit open ended, but
Yeah.
something in that realm.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll figure it out for sure. So, just one final question then. I would love to have you take a moment to give advice to anyone who wants to be a high performing mom and a career driven person, because you seem to have a good balance. Obviously, it's not just you, it's your support team and family and everything you have going on. But what advice would you give to somebody who wants to live that kind of a life?
I would say just don't compare yourself to others and feel like you need to do it a certain way. For sure, balance each day is going to look different, but decide what the balance is that's right for you in the grand scheme of things. And then the other part is whatever you commit to, you can always change your mind if it ends up like not being for you. And I think I found that very freeing for myself, like coming back to triathlon. It's like, I'm going to do this the way I want to do it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But like, give yourself a chance to go after those goals, whatever they are, and find the balance that is the best for you and your family and do the best you can.
Yeah, give yourself a chance. I think that's the piece that I'll probably quote for this episode. That's really awesome. Well, Katie, thank you so much for coming on and letting me be nosy about your life and to dive in and ask some questions. Definitely rooting for you as you go to London and then Yokohama and everything in between. But yeah, it's been a pleasure and an honor.
Thanks so much. It was really nice talking to you.
Thank you so much to Katie for coming on the podcast and again sharing so much of her life and her story with me, with you guys. It's such a neat thing for me to get to come on here and hear from so many different people and walks of life who have such unique stories. I think that's one thing that's so encouraging is that everybody does have a story. And the reason that's encouraging is because it means that we have lots of perspectives to learn from in the way that we grow and progress through our lives. And the next part, I guess, want to go ahead and say is thank you so much for coming on and listening. Wherever you are listening, would ask that you could like, comment, subscribe, review, ask questions, share the podcast with any and all your friends. It really does help us to continue to grow and get the word out there and share these stories with a lot of people. If you want to sign up for our newsletter, you can do that at the stupidquestions.show website. There's a link at the top of the website where you can sign up for that newsletter. And the last thing I want to leave you with are some words from Katie herself when I asked her for advice at the end on how to be basically a good person, but specifically like a mom and a career-driven person. At the same time, she said, give yourself a chance. And that's what I'll leave you with today. Thank you so much. See ya.